Hi, and welcome to the Gnostic Rebellion. Today, we are speaking with Victoria Rusk, a mitigation specialist working in criminal defense, founder of Mitigation University, and author of the Handbook for Criminal Defense. I'm sorry, the Handbook for Mitigation. This may, on a glance, seem like a misfit for the Gnostic Rebellion, but I think we have quite a special program ahead of us, and it's a treat to have Victoria on our podcast. We'll introduce her in a moment, but first, in the description right below this video, of course, you'll find the donate link that not only supports this program, but the work of sustaining our historic building and our historic congregation. We're the first fully owned and operating Gnostic church on the continents of the Americas, and your donations, of course, are tax deductible. So please, if you would, go to that link right now. While you do that, we'll extend this very simple blessing. May wisdom and divine providence increase the unique genius of our congregation and bring us to health, wealth, and increase of days. Okay, with that being said, and everybody helping us out, which we appreciate it, thank you again. Let's introduce Victoria Rusk. She's tied her career in with her spiritual development that shows articulately how we can attune our inner life with the outer world around us. Her passion for justice has, in the past 3 years, had her publish a book, lecture at legal conferences, and pursue her practice. Her personal work with new decision therapy has awakened the Gnostic sense within her, which she seems to instinctively use to coordinate the world around her and her career into one whole approach to being. With that being said, hi, Victoria. Please introduce yourself and let's start by talking
Hi.
about NDT.
Hi, PJ. Thanks, because I really don't get to talk spiritual about criminal defense very much. Yeah, new decision therapy is something that I would love to collaborate in criminal defense at some point, but I think we're coming to a place where the world is adjusting to allow such things. But yeah, thank you for having me and sharing me and my brain with your audience, with your congregation.
Well, hopefully, we'll be able to show your own unique genius
Hmm.
in a way that relates to everybody. The spiritual undercurrent of criminal defense. I'm interested in your ideas on the intersection of consciousness, shadow work, and human transformation, and how this ties into the empathy you develop for your clients and your legal your ideal, which includes a pursuit of greater liberty for us all,
Hmm.
light, life, love, and liberty, which is our, an expression of our core values.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I would say that probably one of my biggest needs is freedom, choice, and autonomy, just as a regular person. And then seeing criminal defense through that lens just led me to be a natural fit for mitigation. And I would like to just share too that mitigation is the lawyer hiring me to really get to know the person, and so I do a mitigation investigation, which is really knowing the real why behind the crime or circumstance, the allegation. It's not the who, the what, the where, the how. It's only the why. And so
Now, I'm
when we,
old enough uh, to remember conservative political arguments complaining that Democrats were, bleeding heart liberals, and they were letting criminals out of jail because they were crying for their circumstances as children.
mm,
I'm not condoning the position. I could just hear an old conservative voice that may
yeah.
not exist anymore saying something like that to you.
Yeah,
How do
I
you get
definitely
around that?
think it exists. I hear it. It comes from the bench, the judge all the time.
Okay.
So it's still alive and well here in Texas. And I would just say that, the excuse is this young person grew up without parents. The real mitigation evidence is that this person has experienced neglect that impacted their brain development. And the science is there. And so once the you enroll science and understanding of our development through, the stages, you'll understand like how or what could cause such level of desperation to dehumanize another person.
Yeah, see now I would say the street understanding or the common understanding
Hmm.
of this type of defendant. I mean,
Yeah,
he's an inner city kid who's now convicted someone. Maybe he had gang membership, something going on like that. And so we have all these stereotypes, and
yeah.
the gang thing has gotten archetypal in its own regard.
Hmm.
Uh, so when we look at the dysfunctional development
Yeah,
of a person like this, that's really kind of a new angle,
true, true.
but we can begin to see, because what you're suggesting here is that um, such a person cannot reach a rational choice for social behavior.
Yes, and or their choices look different because of the the inner being
Uh-huh.
reflecting out on the outer circumstances and then how that is interpreted.
Oh, well, yeah. Imagine the child disappointed, tormented, subject to, terrible scenes or something like that. So, um, here we are. Uh, and before I even ask you how you get around these judges like that,
Oh yeah.
here we are. We have this criminal defendant. We're trying to change his sentence from putting him on death row or locking him up in jail forever and ever,
Hmm.
um, to something else. What is that something else you're trying to bring him to?
I would say that like most of the time it's on average maybe a 20 to 40% reduction of years. It depending on the circumstance, right? Like if somebody is a first time offender, then they might be able to get probation or deferred, meaning that if they behave well for a certain amount of years, then it goes away from their record. It
Now,
could be,
this is a murder defendant?
no, I'm saying it depends on the circumstance.
Oh, okay, so
So
lesser
a
crime.
lot of times murder is you're going to do time, like, and you're just going to.
Yeah, well, I would imagine so.
We haven't overcome that. But like in when it's
But if you're sending a person into jail, and even though you've managed to reduce his time, yet you've clearly demonstrated that this person, is incapable of ever being rehabilitated
no, I don't
or
show
needs
that.
special or need. I said I that was a terrible misspeak for me. Is in desperate need of rehabilitation and
Yeah.
not punishment. Um, how do you get that? Or do you?
Yeah, it just depends on the judge and the jurisdiction, honestly. There's so many variables. That's where the spirituality comes in, is that there's so many variables. You just work the case to the best of your ability, like my professional experiences, and then you allow the nature of the situation to take care of itself. But if you don't give information to the decision maker, the jury, the judge, or in a plea bargain, the DA, they don't have anything to think otherwise. They come to their own conclusions. And so we want to give the real story of how a person could be put into this predicament or this situation. Also, I don't mitigate a crime. You can't really make an excuse for a crime.
Ah,
You can mitigate a
okay.
person,
So I was thinking
you know.
incorrectly.
Yeah,
Okay.
you really more so mitigate the person and their life circumstances and what they've been through. You're separating the sin from the sinner, if you like understand like how that is. So you're really learning about the person and what they went through, which is as unique as their thumbprint, and then you're sharing that information with the people who actually make the decisions. And when you tap into someone's humanity, it naturally taps into the humanity of that decision maker. I don't care what judge, or DA or political stance that they have. Whenever you understand humanity and you share humanity, it's like fighting fire with fire.
Hmm. Okay, so mitigation reveals a certain universality through feelings, emotions, and core values.
Yeah, I would say so. I
Okay,
mean, I would
so
say that's a start. That's a start of it, but I feel like that's how you maybe do an interview, right? But not how you deliver the information. Because then you think about universal needs, you think about universal themes, you think about the things that actually help people see somebody else. You think about brain development, like that's more like mitigation. But what you're
right.
sharing is kind of how I would gather the information, whether I'm talking to the accused person or to their caretaker, their parent, their teacher, their coworker.
Hmm. Okay, so your empathic approach to understanding your clients builds into what you describe as a transpersonal relationship with your clients. Can you talk about what you mean by transpersonal and how that works into the relationship you develop with your clients?
I wish I could, but I don't know that I ever said transpersonal because it's we're still in 2026. Like we cannot what I can do is be an empathic person, professional, right? I can utilize
Uh-huh.
nonviolent communication. I can understand certain spiritual laws, what goes around comes around, like the ideas and understandings of karma, the mirroring of situations,
Okay.
the epigenetics, how trauma is passed down from generation to generation. But assisting somebody with their any of their spirituality or their self-reflection, it depends on where that person or how deep that person has met themselves. And in criminal defense, I can learn about their lives and I can understand why or how something like this would happen, and I can share that with them, but it doesn't mean that it would land.
So now
And
how do you go about learning about their lives? Because you're
yeah,
developing your empathy from this.
yeah, I would say I'm learning their life from what they tell me, what their friends, family, teachers, coworkers, neighbors tell me. Um, they tell, like, if someone, let's say like a head injury, I would say like a third of people who are incarcerated suffer from a head injury
Oh,
and they
wow.
never really got help. Because the head injury then created depressive episodes, and then they were a different person after their head injury.
Yeah.
So I'm actually talking to people on this side of the head injury and this side of the head injury, and then giving an analysis of the situation.
Hmm.
And if they went to the hospital, then I have the actual records that prove it. So I would say
Now, that's
that,
obviously a very dramatic situation.
I mean, it's a very normal situation.
Is it a normal situation, really, that you would
Yeah,
say most of your clients are like this?
I would say a third. I would say
Oh,
that most people who are incarcerated have mental health problems,
mm.
a head injury, or intellectual disability,
And there's just we could just look to politics to see why that's not getting solved.
for sure.
Okay, okay, so we'll say enough said with that. Um, uh, the role
Yeah,
of presence, intuition, and alignment, when engaging with suffering,
right.
there's a
Yeah,
spiritual creativity involved in this, and
yeah,
how you seem to be engaging with your clients,
yes,
using your intuition for us is a vital Gnostic asset. We
yes,
even say in our Rosicrucian Mass, yeah, when we talk about intuition as one of our four great yods, we talk about how very few people really develop this. They may say, "Oh, it's a
mm,
woman's intuition," but nobody really takes the time to practice it. And arts like astrology, and I just learned today you're an astrologer. Arts like
hmm,
astrology develop intuition. That's
yes,
part of their value,
yes,
you know. Um, and so you're aligning with the suffering of others,
yes,
that's an empathy right at the outset. But facts are facts, and the intuitive
yeah,
faculty, I'm sure may help you dig deeper in, unfolding the soul of your client. But then I think also you must be opening your own soul in the process. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I would say that I struggled at the beginning of working criminal defense because there's your it's seems normal for people to create barriers or boundaries. And then I decided or chose, and I met a group of other people who decided and chose that it's okay to care about your client. And that whenever you care about them, you're actually not ignoring yourself and you're able to embrace humanity so much better and you're actually able to do a better job. So I kind of gave up that fight of like trying to have some kind of professional boundary of sorts
That
because
sounds
it,
like a real pivotal moment for you.
yeah, hmm yeah.
Okay, go on.
And so, so then whenever you're listening, as an advocate still, as a professional still, but I'm listening to be able to realize what that might have felt like for me or what could have led to these kinds of things. I'm also doing a lot of reflection because there's a saying that, you can't really help somebody with their problem if you don't clean up your own backyard. And so it made me reflect harder and clean up my own backyard to have the integrity that you have to help people with their problems. And so I would say that my intuition that I practice over and over again was to be able to know that whenever I start work every day, I do have to do for myself first because the world is going to be demanding of me. And if I'm going to be solid in my backbone, then I need to make sure, like when I wake up in the morning, that I do yoga, that I meditate, that I journal, that I eat well, exercise, the things that actually can nourish us
Right.
100%. Like we get full benefit of exercise or journaling or the food we put in our mouth. And
That's
so
brilliant
then,
because the
mhm,
journaling is a Gnostic process,
yeah,
and it helps you to examine yourself. And uh,
yes,
the things of yourself can come out, yes, in your professional life and those stresses, but also in your personal life.
hmm
Things come out, or just even in media events and things you see or programs you watch. All these things hit our minds and can affect our souls in moments.
100%. So I would say I've been journaling, 3 times a week for years, for years.
Okay,
And
so you're very routine with it.
yeah, and I mean, my self-awareness is really on point. It made me that much more thoughtful about how do I try my best to have a debt-free life? How do I really align myself with freedom so that way I can assist people in their own freedom? And it doesn't have to be freedom like get out of jail, but it could be freedom of like understanding themselves and understanding their parents or the people that hurt them or harm them that led them to have this psychological indifference, that led them to be foolish or to be hurt and navigate the world from a hurt place for however many years. Just that level of understanding, self awareness, self reflection, I just took it really seriously, you know, and then evolved now that then at one point, one thing just leads to another that leads to another whenever you're really not trying to control, you're just trying to do your best and to create and make everything as like a reflection of yourself, as socially, no, as emotionally aware or emotionally responsible as possible.
So, mirroring, deep listening,
Yeah,
holding space, as a transformative practice.
yeah,
From NDT, it talks about by working with your subconscious mind, you can unblock the hidden barriers to
yeah.
making the decisions you know are best for you. Uh,
Right. Yeah. I would
yeah,
say new decision therapy was something I stumbled on. So I was in a car accident and I had already been working in criminal defense. And my naturopathic doctor that was recommended to me, she was a new decision therapy practitioner and she learned from the founder and the creator of new decision therapy. And so when I had I was seeing her for, just stress because my job was really stressful. She recommended that I do new decision therapy. So then from that point forward, so we're talking like, oh gosh, 8, 9 years now, was I doing new decision therapy on a regular basis, which is healing modality of releasing the trauma from your body, where your body is the memory bank and your mind intellectualizes. And so once I learned so much more, it just, new decision therapy really does go in alignment with either as a mitigation specialist, as a professional, um, being able to keep your own like to be able to heal your own trauma so that you're not impacted negatively by the trauma of others.
Can you
And
talk about the muscle testing
yeah,
that goes into this therapy? Can you tell me what goes on with that?
yeah. So muscle testing, whenever you go to the chiropractor, I would say if you go to any holistic doctor, they're going to muscle test you by you sticking your arm out and, or they'll do this test, you know, or a lean test where you stand up and then move forward or backwards if it's a
I know
yes or a
those
no.
tests, yeah.
Okay, so the thing about your body is that it works in a hierarchy. So first you pump your heart, then your lungs, then you digest your food. And whatever else you have energy for is what you have energy for to like heal a boo-boo, to think, to have this conversation, to whatever. Well, emotional healing, same. Whatever your body has stored that you're navigating life right now about whatever is triggering,
Mm-hmm.
your body wants to heal the top priority first. So when you muscle test for um, who do I need to forgive, do I need to forgive myself, a man or a woman? Muscle test. Muscle test for do I need to, it's a lot of statements where you decide where your body tells you yes or no, because muscle testing is just a yes or no. And so, in new decision therapy, I became a practitioner. And so, when I give people a new decision therapy test, I teach them how to activate their vagus nerve, which is turning on the largest nerve in the body from the base of the skull to every organ. And so, we activate the vagus nerve, which helps our brain be connected to our bodies. It's called clearing denial. And we figure out in the session, I muscle test or they muscle test themselves, and I walk them through it on, you know, who is the person you need to forgive. So if you muscle test, let's say for a woman, then we'll figure out like, is it what woman in your life is it that you need to forgive? Then we muscle test why you need to forgive them. What age was it that this thing happened? Is it something that's ongoing?
So you're looking for the development of the musculature in a certain area to know that somebody's having a parental issue or something like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, their body will tell us because their body knows. We just have to help our brain get out of the way and utilize it to intellectualize the part that is important, right?
Mhm.
Like help it tell us, yes, no. Like my most recent session, I think I had to forgive myself recently. So I muscle tested for myself, a man or a woman, and it was myself. And it was for something very recent, which what recently happened is that, I had an intruder try to, break into my shed. And I woke up in the middle of the night. It really scared me. And so I had to call the police. They came, and in my mind, I was just carrying that scariness with me for a couple of weeks. So when I did new decision therapy, it was that I needed to forgive myself for not being neighborly. And I needed to forgive myself because I had not been in connection with my neighbors like I probably should have. That it wasn't even about the person breaking into my shed. It was more about me not creating a community around myself where I felt safe.
Ah,
And so that was the
interesting.
real
So you
trigger.
really you really attack that in even what I would say is a transpersonal way.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Because that's a new word for me.
Okay. Now, the divine witness principle, seeing a person's humanity before their charges.
Mm,
The personhood of a defendant in our legal system is often lost in the largesse of the legal system. And of course,
yeah.
the charge or conviction mars a reputation externally and the defendant's self-protection perception internally. There's got to be a sense of helplessness that naturally seeks an ally. It seems to me that then you have to approach the client and the client's attorney and act as a bridge between the two
Mm-hmm.
before you can even help build a bridge between the client and the presiding judge. Um, can you talk about this?
Yeah. I would say that building doing the mitigation investigation, then I write a report. Unless we're going to trial, then I help people act it out, because they'll have to come and testify about the things that they talked about in the mitigation investigation, that kind of thing.
Ah,
But
so you're developing testimony for the client as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
hmm Yeah, but in the written word, I would say that, naturally so many people are really curious about why people do what they do.
Uh-huh.
And we've just built more and more of a curiosity as crime became more impactful. We're all impacted by crime and we just don't even really realize it because we're so punitive. That's one of the impacts, is that our society is so punitive these days that anybody who betrays or hurts or offends somebody else, they'll want to punish them. And so I think that, the judges reading my mitigation reports, they probably honestly really want to know the why behind the why. They want to know what's going on with this person. They want me to break down the psychological impacts of neglect or abuse or betrayal, or abandonment. They want me to break it down and give a living example of like what happened in this person's life in particular, because abandon can hit us all differently. Um, and um, and so it's just really interesting that they actually will then, side with the defense where they can politically. And that's their own spectrum or their own range of autonomy, because even judges have lost some of their autonomy.
Yeah.
And so I think that they're actually looking for it. So I've never had a case where they read my mitigation report and then sentenced somebody harsher. Like, never.
Okay, so you could see even immediately at least some effect, and I
Yeah.
assume you can figure out that there's more, built into what may not be seen right away. Uh,
Yeah.
the defendant gets into jail. Do you have any, and the sentencing is done, your mitigation work is done its job. Um, what next for the defendant and you, or is there nothing
Nothing.
left? There's nothing
Nothing.
left. You're done. You move on to the next. You did the best you could.
Yeah.
Okay, so you now have a range. Well, I guess let's ask, how much time do you spend, on one case? How many cases in your caseload?
I probably spend anywhere from 30 to 100 hours on each case. And I probably process, I don't even know how many cases. It depends on the nature and if we go to trial or not. So I would say, like, right now, I'm prepping for 4 trials and I have 12 clients right now.
Okay, so you're prepping for four trials. How far out in the future?
My first trial is probably going to be like other trial work that I've done before. There's trials happening, but the ones that I'm prepping for now are in March, which could probably get pushed back, but the other ones are in April, May, and June.
Okay, so now have you already started the casework with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so how much time would you say you've already invested in each of those four cases? Guesstimate.
Yeah, I would say probably about 40 or 50 hours. And then when we get to
On each of
trial,
them?
yeah.
Okay, so you've already been working very hard. You've got half the job done, and will you
hmm
accomplish that the other half of that job shortly, or you'll be sliding into home base at the last minute?
Yeah, I give everything over to the attorney 2 weeks before trial, 3 weeks
Okay.
before trial. If they ask for it sooner, then I'll work on it more diligently, but it just depends,
So you've
because
got
it's,
you've got say 2 or 3 more weeks to finish up with what you got right now. And I
yeah,
assume you're taking in and finishing up, and there's a
yeah.
process to that,
hmm
kind of a thing. Uh, When you get done, I assume the lawyer at least informs you of the sentence, when you're done.
Yeah, yeah, I don't even really always follow up because I just keep on working. But the thing is that yeah, they I mean, I even got most recently a dismissal because the client was autistic and nobody was recognizing it. And then I got on the case and I kept on saying like you're gonna have to do special needs stuff for this special needs person. And They ended up dropping the case. And that's because the DA didn't even have a great case against this person. They just wanted to prosecute.
Huh. That is, unbelievable. I can hear, that sense of righteousness in your voice, and
Hmm.
I don't mean that in a pompous way. Um, that really tells me that you take great you place great importance on how things turn out with these people. It's
Yeah, I mean, I
relevant
would
not just
say
to those
like,
people individually, but to you
yeah.
and to the rest of us.
Well, and the righteousness that comes is coming up is that like is that love, compassion, forgiveness, and knowing the truth really is the higher vibration of some of the weird negative themes or thoughts that the other side of the law tries to portray. They don't even know the full story of the person. So I
Right.
would just say that, like, and then also, if you're not a mental health professional, you can't really recognize something like a high functioning depressed person or a high functioning autistic person. You wouldn't be
Now, do
able
you
to pick it
connect
up.
all your clients with some kind of mental health professional?
I don't because I am processing cases, but there is advocacy for that. There's counselors for that. There's social workers for that, but that's not what I do.
Right. No, no, I understand that. I didn't know whether you conveyed some
Yeah.
people into that experience or not.
No, I mean,
Just a curiosity.
I honestly just help people with their cases, and even if I see things that are problematic, I have to just navigate them in their truth and where they're at right now. I don't have the ability or the licensing to help people. I can just refer them to someone.
Yeah, 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 that makes sense. So perhaps my misunderstanding. Well, Victoria, just thanks for a great discussion. Really appreciate
Yeah,
it. I really
thank
think our
you.
congregation can really get something out of this.
Yeah,
That we weren't pushing, yogic mumbo jumbo, but showing,
yeah,
a Gnostic approach to a real life situation, which is what I
no
think you're
doubt.
doing.
Yeah, and I mean, I would love it if your congregation wants to do like a um, if they have a book club or something, maybe I can toss my book into the cycle. It's an easy read.
Yeah, we had one.
Okay.
it kind of died.
Okay, well, I'm just saying like, I would love to, I want to share mitigation in non-legal settings. I want people to know really what it is because you might be a juror someday.
Well, also too, I hope that as people see this over time, they will see those people that do need it will know to reach out to you. They'll know where to
Yeah.
reach out, you
Yeah,
know.
for sure. For sure. Thank you so
Okay,
much for
so
having me.
with that, we'll again say thank you, and I'll say directly to our congregational network, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this program as much as I did. In the meantime, take care and be well.